Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Tech Showdown. Today we're checking out a motherboard. It's from MSI. It's the MSI x299 SLI Plus, and let's jump straight into it then with the key features. So of course this is going to support all your Intel Core X Socket 26 CPUs. That is your Skylake X CPUs and your Kaby Lake X CPUs, although I really wouldn't recommend those guys because, yeah, they're not very good. Now, memory-wise, so it's coming with a, well, it supports quad-channel DDR4 up to 4133 megahertz in its OC mode and up to 128 gigabytes of it, so that's really nice to see. Now, there's not as much RGB as you get on other motherboards. Personally, if you know me, you know I don't care about that stuff. It's just on the VRM and some on the chipset, but hey, if you really like RGB, you might have to look elsewhere because this motherboard doesn't come with very much RGB lighting. Now, it has an 8-channel Realtek ALC1220 codec, so that's really good, and Audio Boost 4 with a built-in DAC. It's also coming with Chemicon audio capacitors for a warmer sound and separated audio layers that'll give you a nice clean sound. I use this. I would say the audio is pretty good, although people that take it super serious will probably want something a bit better. But overall, I mean, it's definitely good enough to get anybody by just fine. So yeah, solid in terms of the audio. Now, it's also coming with double ESD protection. So that's to basically make your motherboard a bit better grounded. I'm not sure if really that was an issue with other motherboards, but hey, it's there, and I guess it's a good thing. It also comes with MSI's Military Class 6 components. Those are upgraded components, titanium chokes, and dark caps. It's going to be really good. Make your overclocks a bit more stable there. So let's move over now and look at the layout of the motherboard, and we'll work from top to bottom. We'll take a tour of the motherboard. So in the top left there, we see the fan header, just a standard one. If we look over the other side, you'll see the CPU fan and pump fan headers are over there. It's coming just with a single 8-pin CPU power connector, and that's not really ideal as your overclocked i9 CPUs will probably draw more. I mean, a 7900X draws a lot of power as is, so I can't imagine what the 12, 14, 16 core ones are going to draw. So yeah, not really good there. Would have liked to have seen maybe an 8-pin and a 4-pin, or an 8-pin and a 6-pin at least, and that would have been a bit better. Moving over to the other corner of the motherboard, we see the Easy Debug readout. That's to be expected on high-end platform like x299, but it's still super handy for diagnosing issues. Then we see the memory slots like normal and the huge socket there, although Threadripper will probably make that look pretty small, to be honest. Now, VRM-wise, coming with a 9-phase VRM with IR3521 controller, 201 I should say, and PK63 2BA MOSFETs. That's really good there. A nice big VRM heatsink as well. Moving over to the side, we see the standard motherboard connector and a front panel USB 3.1 Gen 1 header. Under that, we see a front panel USB 3.1 Gen 2 header. Then we get another USB 3.1 Gen 1 header, so all the USB 3.1. 6 SATA 6 ports and a U.2 port. Now, if we move over quickly to the PCIe slots, you see 2 PCIe x16 slots. That's from the CPU, I should say. Those are the steel ones. And then you get 2 PCIe x1 slots, a PCIe 4.0 slot, x4 slot, I should say, and a PCIe x8 slot, even though they're still both of them are the physical 8 slots. One of them's x4, one of them's x8, so keep that in mind. So that basically means that you can do a 3-way SLI or a Crossfire in a x16 x16 x8 setup if you're using the i9 7900X. That's really good. As far as M.2 slots go, you get 2 of them, the PCIe x4 slots. One of them has a thermal guard. You can reposition this and put it down on the bottom. I would definitely recommend using the bottom one. But in the top one, I noticed with the thermal guard on and off, there was about a 10-degree difference, generally speaking. 10 degrees better with the guard on, but I wasn't doing anything very strenuous with the M.2 SSD, so yeah, it might have heat soak type issues if you were using it a lot, doing big transfers and things like that. Moving back down to the bottom, we have 2 more SATA 6 ports and a VRAD connector. VRAD, that sounds awesome. VRAD connector, I should say. With a front panel connector and a BIOS switch above that. a Thunderbolt add-on card header, which, okay, and 2 front panel USB 2.0 connectors. Then we see another front panel connector, power and reset buttons, and a TPM connector. And then you just got a bunch of fan connectors, an RGB LED connector, and your front panel audio connector there as well. Moving around to the back then, let's talk about the I/O, and we'll work from left to right. So on the top left there, we see a clear CMOS and a BIOS flashback button. I mean, flasher back button according to the manual. Really? Nobody checked this? Wow. All right, let's move on. Then next we have up top there a PS2 port, 2 USB 2.0 ports, then 2 more USB 2.0 ports above 2 USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports, so all the USB there. Then we have an Intel Gigabit LAN port above 2 more USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports, a second Intel Gigabit LAN port above a USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type A and Type C port, and then you just get all your audio ports like normal, including a SPDIF connector. Now let's talk about the BIOS then. So I actually really enjoy the MSI BIOS. Updating it was an absolute breeze, and the BIOS itself in general is really easy to use. It's well laid out. It has enough options for most enthusiasts to be happy and take advantage of, but it's not too confusing. It's not too over the top that newer users are just going to be like bewildered by it. So I was testing it with the 7820X, the 8-core CPU, and it managed to get it up to 4.5 GHz on all 8 cores at 1.28 volts. No worries at all. Overall, it's a good BIOS. I definitely prefer the MSI BIOS to the ASUS one. The Gigabyte one's still pretty good though, so it's sort of a hard choice between those two. But yeah, I like it. As far as BIOS goes, the MSI one's really nice. Which brings us now to the conclusion, and what do I make of the MSI x299 SLI Plus motherboard? So right now at Playtech, you can pick this guy up for 499 New Zealand dollars, which actually makes it the cheapest x299 board that Playtech sells. So yeah, just chew on that for a second. Now with that in mind, those seeking high-end audio or really high-end overclocking, you should probably look elsewhere because it's probably not going to be the one for you. However, for everybody else, it should be just fine. Those who are happy with just, pretty good audio, decent audio, they'll be fine with it. It's definitely not bad, as I said before. And those that aren't going for the highest overclock possible will also be fine with it. The overclocking on it is still solid. It's definitely not bad, that is for sure. But keep in mind the price point that this motherboard is coming in at. Overall, I think it's a good motherboard, and it's definitely solid. A lot of people will be wanting to see how this guy compares to the ASUS Prime X299A, so I'll check that motherboard out in the future. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. Just be aware of the constraints it might have because of the price point it's trying to meet. And if you're a person that's wanting, as I said earlier, better audio or a higher overclocking, then you might want to look elsewhere because there's definitely more premium X299 boards that you could get. Now I thank you all for watching this video. Please subscribe to Tech Showdown if you haven't already, and smash that like button. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.